Emergency planning has been a really important issue for our membership for many years. We have members who are parent carers who told us that they were really worried about what would happen to their family members that they care for in an emergency. They were worried about getting older, and so it's been a campaign that Enable Scotland has driven forward over the past number of years. We're funded by the Scottish Government to implement emergency planning, to increase access to emergency planning for carers across the country. And so that's really involved us doing a lot of research across the country to find out what emergency planning schemes were in operation, what was actually available to carers. What we've found is that by planning in advance, it actually prevents an emergency from becoming a crisis. And an emergency can be anything from being stuck in a traffic jam to being involved in an accident to having to go into hospital. Despite the thought of an emergency meaning there's screaming, flashing sirens and lights, it needn't be like that. But where you're in a caring role, every minute can count. And so by taking the time to be proactive and planning in advance and getting all those details down about that caring that you do for that person day to day, it can make it easier for someone to step into your role should an emergency happen. And for those individuals that are stepping into the caring role, it actually means that they have a document there that's telling them exactly what they should do and what the best way to support that person is. So the toolkit almost takes carers on a journey from, first of all, thinking about an emergency plan, to who it is that they might want to involve in those discussions, to thinking about all the detail that they would want to have involved in it, and then finally to be encouraging them to share it with all the individuals that they should share it with. We've called the 4 sections care, prepare, plan, share. And we're saying that they are really the stages that a carer would need to go through before they were then able to think about getting that plan down on paper. And as for who the toolkit is for, it's for carers to fill in, but it can also be used by carer support workers, social workers, anybody that's coming into contact with carers and is encouraging them to think about planning for an emergency. Okay, so we're having a big national launch today of our toolkit and our associated resources. So there's 3 documents that are being launched today. The toolkit that is to support carers to think about how to plan for their emergencies, an emergency plan where they get all that detail down in writing and it's hopefully used should an emergency occur. And we have a who, what, why of emergency planning, which is really a kind of helpful guide, maybe sometimes could be used as an introduction to emergency planning. We have some guest speakers that are really just here to illustrate what the importance of emergency planning is. We've heard from a carer, Duncan McGilvery, about his own personal family circumstances, but we've also heard from the Scottish Government about the work that Enable Scotland have been doing around the Carer Scotland Bill, where we've now secured emergency planning amendments, which means that all carers are going to have a right to have this conversation about emergency planning. We really want the resources to be as accessible as possible and as interactive as possible for carers. So we have a webpage, www.enable.org.uk/emergency planning, and on there you will find all these resources available as downloads, as PDFs to print off and write on, as Word documents to type in as and when carers have the opportunity to do so. And you'll also find those resources available in Cantonese, Urdu and Polish on the website.
I mean, I would strongly recommend that all carers consider having a look at this. From a personal point of view, I know that the peace of mind that something like this might give would really help in the background to providing care for a vulnerable loved one. I think our loved ones deserve this, and I think it really is the responsibility of the main carer to pass on this information. None of us like thinking about a dire emergency or a health breaking down, but it really is the responsible thing to do, particularly where the care of our loved one is quite specialist in nature.
We want to continue talking to the Scottish Government about other ways that this project can really support carers to plan for emergencies, can really support the implementation of the Carer Scotland Act going forward. We also had a conversation with all of those assembled about the training that's on offer, and we really want to be going out and speaking to as many carer organisations and staff who are working with carers about how to have those conversations with carers, how to handle those sensitive discussions about emergency planning. So we have a half-day course that's on offer, it's free, and we really want as many organisations to engage with us and to engage with the project so that we can really support that legacy of these resources.